Istanbul is not merely a city. It is a feeling. It is the salt spray of the Bosphorus hitting your face as you stand on the deck of a ferry caught between two worlds. To the left, Europe. To the right, Asia. This is the only place on Earth where you can cross continents in a matter of minutes, yet find yourself travelling through centuries of history with every step. We are about to embark on a sensory journey. The slow walk through the rhythmic chaos and silent majesty of a metropolis that has seen empires rise and fall. Listen closely. The city is starting to wake up. The sun begins its ascent, not with a shout, but with a soft amber glow that spills across the Golden Horn. The water, a deep indigo just moments ago, begins to shimmer like molten lead. This curved inlet has been the heartbeat of the city for millennia, a natural harbour that once protected the navies of Rome and the merchant fleets of the Silk Road. From this vantage point, the skyline of Istanbul reveals itself as a series of elegant silhouettes. The sharp needles of minarets piercing the morning mist, and the massive rounded shoulders of domes that seem to hold up the sky itself. There is a peculiar stillness at this hour, a fragile peace before the day's trade begins. You can hear the distant cry of a seagull, a lonely sound that echoes off the stone walls of ancient warehouses. Then, the first chime of a bell, or the low hum of a distant engine, signals that the city is breathing. The air is cool, carrying the scent of damp stone and the faint, briny tang of the sea. It is a moment of pure potential. As the light strengthens, the colours of the city begin to emerge. The terracotta roofs of old wooden houses, the weathered grey of the city walls, and the sudden brilliant green of a cypress tree tucked between buildings. We are standing at the threshold of a world where the past is never truly gone. It is simply layered one era upon another, like the sediment at the bottom of the Horn. But what lies beyond the mist? As we move away from the water's edge and toward the historic heart of Sultanahmet, the sounds of the morning begin to change. The soft lapping of waves is replaced by the rhythmic clatter of a tram and the footsteps of those heading to early prayer. The journey has truly begun. Every cobblestone beneath our feet has a story to tell, and every breeze carries the ghosts of 1,000 years. Can you feel the weight of it? This is the entrance to a labyrinth of culture and time, and we are just getting started. Walking into Sultanahmet Square feels like stepping into the very centre of the world. The ground here is heavy with history, quite literally. Beneath these stones lie the foundations of the Roman Hippodrome, where chariots once thundered and the fate of emperors was decided by the roar of the crowd. Today, the square is a wide, open promenade, flanked by two of the most magnificent structures ever conceived by human hands. On one side stands the Hagia Sophia, a monument to the Byzantine spirit. On the other, the Blue Mosque, the pinnacle of Ottoman architecture. The square acts as a bridge between these two giants, a neutral ground where the centuries face each other in a silent architectural dialogue. The grass is still wet with dew, and the flower beds are bursting with tulips, a flower that, interestingly enough, originated in the wild steppes of Central Asia before becoming a symbol of the Ottoman court. As we walk, the textures of the city become more intimate. There is the rough, sun-warmed granite of the Egyptian obelisk, which has stood here since the 4th century. Its hieroglyphs are still sharp, a message from an even older world standing tall amidst the ruins of Rome. Nearby, the serpent column brought from Delphi spirals upward, a weathered bronze relic of ancient Greek victories. It is a strange, beautiful collection of artifacts, gathered like trophies by a city that was once the envy of the known world. The air here is different. It smells of roasting corn and toasted sesame seeds from the nearby simit carts. The vendors are just setting up, their red and gold wagons bright against the grey stone. A simit, a circular bread encrusted with sesame, is the quintessential Istanbul breakfast. It is crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, and perfect for sharing with the local pigeons. But the square is more than just a museum. It is a place of transit. Tourists with cameras rub shoulders with locals rushing to work, and students sit on benches reading. It is the living room of Istanbul. And yet, the presence of the great buildings around us is impossible to ignore. They loom over the square, casting long shadows that remind us of our own smallness. We are moving toward the oldest of these giants now. Let us see what secrets are held within the walls of the Hagia Sophia. To stand beneath the dome of the Hagia Sophia is to stand at the intersection of heaven and earth. For nearly 1,000 years, this was the largest cathedral in the world, a crowning achievement of the Byzantine Empire. When it was completed in the year 537, Emperor Justinian is said to have cried out, "Solomon, I have surpassed thee." And looking up at the vast expanse of the ceiling, it is easy to understand his pride. The engineering of the dome was a miracle of its time. It seems to float, supported by a ring of 40 windows that flood the interior with a celestial light. This was intentional. The architects wanted the space to feel as though it were suspended by a golden chain from the sky. As you walk across the polished marble floors, worn smooth by the feet of millions of pilgrims, you can see the ripples in the stone, like water frozen in time. But the Hagia Sophia is not just a relic of Byzantium, it is a tapestry of change. In 1453, after the fall of Constantinople, it was converted into a mosque. The transition was not one of destruction, but of layer upon layer of addition. Islamic calligraphy, in massive circular frames, now hangs alongside golden Christian mosaics. The Virgin Mary gazes down from the apse, while the names of Allah and the Prophet Muhammad are inscribed in elegant Arabic script nearby. It is a profound and sometimes jarring visual representation of the city's complex identity. The light inside is soft and hazy, catching the dust motes that dance in the air. It smells of old parchment and cold stone, a scent that feels like time itself. There is a quiet gravity here. People speak in whispers, their voices swallowed by the immense volume of the hall. One of the most touching details is found in the upper galleries. There, etched into a marble railing, is Viking graffiti runes carved by a member of the Varangian Guard over 1,000 years ago. It says, simply, Halfdan was here. It is a reminder that people have always been drawn to this place, from every corner of the earth. As we exit, we pass through the imperial door, through which only the emperor was once allowed to enter. The bronze is cold to the touch, and the carvings are intricate. We leave behind the echoes of the Byzantine court, but the spirit of the building follows us out into the sunlight. However, across the square, a different kind of majesty awaits. The Blue Mosque is calling. If the Hagia Sophia represents the weight of history, the Blue Mosque represents the height of Ottoman elegance. Officially known as the Sultanahmet Mosque, It was built in the early 17th century to rival its neighbour in beauty and scale. From the outside, it is a cascading waterfall of domes and semi-domes, framed by 6 slender minarets that reach toward the clouds like stone needles. Why 6? Legend has it that the Sultan asked for Altin gold minarets, but the architect heard Alti, the word for 6. At the time, only the mosque in Mecca had 6 minarets, and the Sultan had to pay for a 7th to be built there to avoid appearing disrespectful. It was a mistake that resulted in one of the most distinctive skylines in the world. Inside, the reason for its nickname becomes clear. Over 20,000 hand-painted ceramic tiles from the town of Iznik line the walls. They are a riot of blue, turquoise and green, depicting more than 50 different tulip designs. When the light filters through the 260 stained glass windows, the entire interior glows with a soft sapphire hue. It feels less like a building and more like an underwater garden. The floor is covered in thick, red carpets, which muffle every sound. This creates an atmosphere of deep, meditative silence, even when the mosque is filled with hundreds of people. You are required to remove your shoes before entering, and the feeling of the soft wool beneath your feet immediately connects you to the space in a more personal way. Looking up, the central dome is decorated with intricate geometric patterns and verses from the Quran. The symmetry is perfect, a reflection of the Ottoman obsession with order and divine harmony. It is a space designed to inspire awe, but also to provide peace. As we sit for a moment on the edge of the carpet, the scent of rosewater and old wood lingers in the air. Outside, the world is bustling, but in here time seems to slow down. But the peace is broken by a sound that defines this city. The ezan, the call to prayer, begins. It starts at one minaret, then another, until the air is thick with a haunting melodic chant that echoes across the square. It is a signal that life in Istanbul is always moving, always turning, and our own path now leads us away from the sacred toward the rhythmic chaos of commerce. Leaving the quiet of the mosques, we head toward a different kind of temple, a temple of trade. The Grand Bazaar, or Kapalis Arshi, is one of the largest and oldest covered markets in the world. Built shortly after the Ottoman conquest, it has survived fires, earthquakes, and the rise and fall of empires, only to emerge larger and more vibrant each time. As we pass through one of its 22 gates, Gate 7 perhaps, or the Nur Osmaniye Gate, the atmosphere shifts instantly. The open sky is replaced by a vaulted roof, painted with intricate yellow and blue motifs. The air becomes warmer, denser, and filled with a dizzying array of scents. Cured leather, roasted coffee, sweet apple tobacco, and the metallic tang of polished brass. It is a labyrinth, with over 60 streets and 4,000 shops. The bazaar is a place where it is not only easy to get lost, it is recommended. If you walk with a purpose, you miss the magic. The magic is in the side alleys, the hans or courtyards where craftsmen have worked for generations. In one corner, you might find the sahaflar, the second-hand booksellers, where the smell of old paper is intoxicating. In another, the rhythmic clink, clink, clink of a coppersmith's hammer creates a steady industrial beat. This was the terminus of the Silk Road. For centuries, caravans from China, India, and Persia would end their journey here, unloading spices, silks, and jewels to be sold to the merchants of Europe. You can still feel that global pulse The shopkeepers are masters of language, switching effortlessly between Turkish, English, German and Japanese to entice passers-by. Buyur, they say. Welcome, please come in, just looking is free. But a visit to the bazaar is never just about looking, it is a sensory experience. You touch the heavy weight of a hand-woven kilim, feel the cold smoothness of a silver bracelet, and taste the sugary dust of a piece of Turkish delight offered on a silver tray. The light is dim, punctuated by the brilliant glow of thousands of mosaic lamps that hang from the ceilings like clusters of glowing fruit. It is overwhelming, yes, but there is a hidden order to the chaos. The jewellery is here, the carpets are there, the leather goods are in another section. It is a city within a city. And to truly understand it, we must sit down. Because in the Grand Bazaar, no business is ever done without a glass of tea. In Istanbul, tea is more than a beverage. It is a social lubricant, a gesture of hospitality, and the fundamental unit of time. You cannot walk 10 feet in the Grand Bazaar without seeing a young boy known as a Saisi darting through the crowds with a silver tray suspended by 3 chains. On that tray sit several small tulip-shaped glasses, filled with a deep, mahogany-coloured liquid. When a merchant invites you for tea, the pace of the world changes. The frantic energy of the market fades into the background. You sit on a low stool, the glass hot against your fingertips. You don't use a handle, you hold the glass by its rim. You drop in a sugar cube or two, and stir with a tiny spoon, creating a rhythmic tinkling sound that is the background music of the city. This is when the negotiation begins. But in Turkey, negotiation is not a battle. It's a dance. It's a way of building a relationship. The merchant will ask where you are from, how you like Istanbul, and tell you about his family. Only after the first glass of tea is finished do you start talking about the price of that silk scarf or the ceramic bowl. There is a specific etiquette to it. You never take the first price. You counteroffer. They feign a little heartbreak. You offer again, and eventually you meet in the middle. When the deal is struck, there is a handshake and, often, a second glass of tea to celebrate the new friendship. The tea itself is strong and bitter, brewed in a double teapot called a çaydanlık. The bottom pot boils the water, while the top pot holds a concentrated tea essence. It is diluted to your liking, but in the bazaar they usually serve it tavşan kanı, rabbit's blood, which means dark and potent. As we sit here watching the stream of people go by, we realise that the bazaar hasn't changed much in 500 years. The products might be different, but the human connection remains the same. The scent of the tea, the warmth of the glass, and the sound of the spoon against the side. These are the anchors that hold the city together. But there is another market, just a short walk away, where the air is even thicker with history. It is a place of scent and colour that once fueled the pharmacies of the sultans. Let's head toward the spice market. As we leave the Grand Bazaar and walk toward the waterfront of Eminönü, the air begins to change. It becomes heavier, sweet and sharp all at once. We are approaching the Mısır Çarşısı, the Egyptian spice market. Built in the mid-17th century, it was funded by taxes on Egyptian imports, which is how it earned its name. If the Grand Bazaar is a labyrinth of stone, the spice market is a cathedral of scent. Entering the L-shaped building is like walking into a spice merchant's dream. On either side, mounds of brightly coloured powders are stacked in perfect cones. There is the deep, earthy red of sumac the vibrant yellow of turmeric, the dusty orange of cumin, and the royal purple of dried hibiscus flowers. The vendors call out to you, offering samples of lokum, Turkish delight. These aren't the bland cubes you find in boxes at the airport. These are works of art. Pomegranate flavoured with whole pistachios, rose water rolled in dried petals, or honey-sweetened walnut sausages dipped in grape molasses. The texture is soft, chewy, and explodes with flavour the moment it touches your tongue. But the market offers more than just sweets. Hanging from the ceilings are long garlands of dried eggplants, peppers and okras, looking like strange, shriveled jewellery. There are jars of mesir makunu, a spicy herbal paste that was originally created as a medicine for the mother of Suleiman the Magnificent. It contains 41 different herbs and spices, and is said to cure almost any ailment. The scent is almost dizzying. It is the smell of the ancient world of caravans that travelled thousands of miles across deserts and mountains. You smell the heat of the sun in the dried chilies and the coolness of the forest in the pine nuts. Outside the market, the energy shifts again. This is the Eminoni Square, where the city meets the sea. The sound of shouting vendors selling balik ekmek, grilled fish sandwiches, mixes with the deep bass honk of ferry horns. The spice market is the bridge between the land and the water, a place where the bounty of the earth is prepared for the journey across the sea. And that is where we are going next. We've explored the stone and the spices, the history and the trade now. It is time to leave the shore. We are going to cross the water, and in doing so, we will leave Europe behind. But what does it feel like to stand between two continents? Let's board the ferry. There are many ways to cross the Bosphorus. You could take the massive suspension bridges or the high-tech tunnel beneath the seabed. But to truly experience Istanbul, you must take the ferry. The Şehir Hatları ferries are the white and yellow workhorses of the city, carrying millions of people between Europe and Asia every day. Boarding the ferry at Eminoni is a chaotic ballet. People rush the gangplank, finding their favourite spots. Some head for the interior cabins with their plush seats, but the real magic is on the wooden decks. As the engines roar to life and the thick ropes are cast off, the boat pulls away from the pier and the city begins to open up like a pop-up book. The Bosphorus is not just a strait, it is a legendary waterway that connects the Black Sea to the Sea of Marmara. It is the reason Istanbul exists. As the ferry gains speed, the wind picks up, carrying the smell of salt and diesel. Seagulls follow the boat in a swirling white cloud, hovering almost motionless in the slipstream, waiting for passengers to toss pieces of simit into the air. Looking back, the skyline of the historic peninsula is breathtaking. The Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque stand side by side, their domes glowing in the afternoon light. To the north, the Galata Tower rises above the rooftops of the foreign quarter. It is a view that has remained largely unchanged for centuries, a testament to the city's enduring silhouette. But then you turn around, and there it is. Asia. Coming closer, the Asian side, the district of Kadikoy, looks different. It feels less like a museum and more like a neighbourhood. The buildings are a bit more colourful. The pace feels a little more relaxed as the ferry approaches the Haydar Pasha railway station, a magnificent neo-Renaissance building that looks like a Prussian castle on the water. You realise the scale of this place. This crossing takes only 20 minutes, but it is a profound experience. You are suspended between two land masses, between the west and the east. The water beneath you is deep and treacherous, with currents that have challenged sailors since the time of Jason and the Argonauts. On the deck, people are doing what they always do, drinking tea from tulip glasses, reading the newspaper, or simply staring out at the water. There is a sense of collective transit, a shared moment of transition. The ferry is a moving bridge, a place where the city takes a collective breath before plunging back into the noise of the streets. As the boat bumps gently against the tyres of the Kadikoy pier, the gate drops and we step off. We have arrived in Asia, and yet the air feels the same. But is it? Let's see what life is like on this side of the water. Stepping off the ferry in Kadikoy is like waking up in a different version of the same dream. If Sultanahmet is the city's crown, Kadikoy is its soul. This is where the locals come to eat, to shop, and to live. There are fewer tourists here, and the atmosphere is one of casual, vibrant energy. We head straight for the Kadikoy fish market. Unlike the spice market, which is housed in a grand building, this market is a network of open-air streets. The displays are incredible. Silver rows of hamsi, anchovies, laid out in circular patterns, red-gilled sea bass resting on beds of crushed ice, and massive crates of shimmering blue mackerel. The fishmongers are performers, splashing water over their catch to keep it glistening and shouting out the day's prices in a rhythmic staccato. But the market isn't just about fish. Interspersed between the seafood stalls are shops selling some of the best produce in Turkey. You see barrels of olives in every shade, from jet black to bright green, mounds of white Iznik cheese and honeycomb dripping with golden nectar. There is a famous pickle shop here, Meşhur Özkan Turşuları, where the windows are filled with jars of pickled everything: cucumbers, garlic, plums, even lemons. The bright pink pickling juice is a local favourite, especially on a hot day. It's sharp, salty, and guaranteed to wake up your palate. As we walk deeper into the district, the streets become narrower and more colourful. This is the Bahari Eye area, known for its street art and independent boutiques. A vintage tram, much like the one in Europe, clangs its way up the hill, its bell a nostalgic sound in the modern air. Kadikoy feels younger, more bohemian. You see artists sketching in cafes, musicians playing the oud on street corners, and students debating in bookstores. It is a place that celebrates the new while respecting the old. But there is one thing that remains constant, no matter which continent you are on. The cats. Istanbul is a city of cats, and in Kadikoy, they are the true rulers. They sit on the seats of parked motorcycles. They nap on the displays of bookstores, and they wait patiently outside the fishmongers for a scrap of sea bass. They are well fed and well loved, a symbol of the city's collective compassion. As the afternoon sun begins to dip, the shadows in Kadikoy grow long and soft. But our journey isn't over. We have one more crossing to make before the sun disappears. As we walk along the shoreline of Üsküdar, just north of Kadikoy, a small, elegant structure appears in the middle of the water. This is the Kız Kulesi, the Maiden's Tower. It sits on a tiny islet, a lonely sentinel that has guarded the entrance to the Bosphorus for over 2,000 years. Like everything in Istanbul, the tower is wrapped in legend. The most famous story tells of a sultan who had a beloved daughter. A prophecy foretold that she would be killed by a venomous snake on her 18th birthday. To protect her, the sultan built this tower in the sea, away from any snakes. On her birthday, he brought her a basket of exotic fruits to celebrate. But hidden among the grapes was a small asp. The prophecy was fulfilled, and the tower became a monument to a father's tragic love. Today, it is one of the most romantic spots in the city. At sunset, the tower is silhouetted against the burning orange of the European skyline. The water around it turns to gold, and the light from the tower's lantern begins to blink, a steady pulse in the gathering gloom. We sit on the Salakak steps, wide concrete stairs covered in cushions and rugs, where locals gather to watch the day end. Vendors sell hot tea and chekirdek, sunflower seeds, and the sound of cracking shells is a constant rhythm. From here you can see the true scale of the city. To the left, the Marmara Sea stretches out toward the horizon, dotted with massive cargo ships waiting their turn to enter the Black Sea. To the right, the Bosphorus bridge sparkles with thousands of LED lights, changing colour every few minutes. It is a moment of profound beauty. The city seems to glow from within. The layers of stone, the centuries of conflict, the millions of lives, they all seem to dissolve into this single perfect moment of light and water. But the sun is almost gone. The call to prayer for the evening, the Akşam ezanı, begins to ripple across the water from the minarets of Üsküdar. It is time to head back across the strait. Our journey will end where the old city meets the new at the Galata Bridge and the Golden Horn. But what secrets does the night hold for Istanbul? Returning to the European side, we find ourselves at the Galata Bridge. This isn't just a way to get from point A to point B. It is a living ecosystem. The bridge has 2 levels. On the lower level, a row of seafood restaurants beckons with glowing signs and displays of fresh fish, but it is the upper level that truly captures the spirit of Istanbul. Line after line of fishermen stand along the railings, their long rods arching over the water. They are here in the heat of the summer and the freezing winds of winter. Some are professionals, selling their catch to the restaurants below, but many are just locals looking for a bit of peace and a few small istavrit, horse mackerel, for dinner. There is a specific smell here, a mix of sea salt, fish bait, and the smoke from 1,000 cigarettes. The sound is a blend of the lapping water, the distant traffic, and the occasional thwack of a fish hitting the pavement. It is a social club without walls. Men share thermoses of tea, discuss politics, and offer advice on the best kind of lure. Looking down from the bridge toward Eminönü, you see the famous floating kitchens. These are ornate, brightly lit boats that bob violently in the wake of passing ferries. On board, men in traditional Ottoman vests and fezzes grill mackerel on massive hot plates. They tuck the fish into half a loaf of bread with onions, lettuce, and a squeeze of lemon. This is balik ekmek, the taste of the Bosphorus. You buy your sandwich, find a small plastic stool on the pier, and eat it while the world rushes by. It is simple, cheap, and utterly delicious. The bread is crusty, the fish is smoky, and the lemon cuts through the richness. As we walk across the bridge toward the Galata side, the city's history rises up to meet us again. Ahead is the Galata Tower, built by the Genoese in the 14th century. It stands on a hill overlooking the entrance to the Golden Horn like a stone sentinel. The bridge is the transition point between the imperial past of Sultanahmet and the cosmopolitan, European-influenced future of Beyoğlu. It is a place where the city's divisions disappear. Rich and poor, young and old, they all meet here, suspended over the dark waters of the Horn. But the hill is steep and the night is young. Let's climb toward the tower and see the city from above. The climb up the narrow, winding streets of Galata is a workout for the legs and a treat for the eyes. This area was once a semi-independent colony of the Republic of Genoa, a medieval Italian trading powerhouse. You can still see the influence in the architecture, sturdier stone buildings, narrow alleys that feel like they belong in a Mediterranean port, and of course the tower itself. The Galata Tower, or Christia Turris, the Tower of Christ, was the highest point in the city walls when it was built in 1348. It has served as a watchtower, a prison, and a fire lookout. Today, it is the best place to get a 360-degree view of the metropolis. Taking the elevator to the top and stepping out onto the narrow balcony is an experience that can steal your breath. The wind is fierce up here, whistling through the stone arches. Below, Istanbul stretches out in every direction, a glittering carpet of light. You can see the entire path we've taken. The domes of Sultanahmet look like glowing bubbles in the distance. The Bosphorus is a dark ribbon punctuated by the moving lights of ferries. The Asian side is a distant twinkling shore. From this height, the chaos of the city feels organized, a complex machine that never stops moving. One of the most famous stories associated with the tower is that of Hezarfen Ahmed Celebi. In the 17th century, he is said to have constructed a pair of wooden wings and, using the wind from the tower, flew across the Bosphorus to the slopes of Üsküdar. It was one of the earliest recorded attempts at human flight. Standing on this balcony, looking at the distance he had to cover, the feat seems impossible, and yet in a city like Istanbul, you want to believe it. The tower's lantern glows with a warm, steady light, a beacon for the ships below. As we descend back into the streets, the atmosphere changes again. We are entering Beyoğlu, the heart of modern Istanbul, where the night is just beginning. Istiklal Avenue is calling. It is a river of people, a place where the city's pulse beats the fastest. But before we join the crowd, let's take a moment to look back at the tower. It has stood through the fall of the Byzantines and the rise of the Republic. It is a silent witness to everything we have seen, and it isn't finished yet. If Sultanahmet is the city's past, Istiklal Avenue is its present. This nearly mile-long pedestrian street is the spinal cord of the Beyoğlu district. On any given day, nearly 3 million people walk its length. It is a dizzying, exhilarating, and sometimes exhausting sea of humanity. The architecture here is Grand Rue de Paris style, a mix of neoclassical, Art Nouveau, and First National styles that makes you feel like you could be in Paris or Vienna if it weren't for the Turkish flags fluttering from the balconies. Massive consulates, historic movie theatres, and grand passages like the Çiçek Passage, the Flower Passage, line the street. Cutting through the crowd is the nostalgic tramway, the nostalgic red tram. It clangs its bell incessantly as it slowly makes its way from Tunal Square to Taksim Square. People jump on and off the back, and children sometimes hitch a ride on the bumpers. It is a slow, rhythmic, moving landmark in a world that is moving very fast. Istiklal is a sensory overload. You hear the sound of street musicians every 100 yards, a Syrian band playing the kanun, a Turkish rock group, or an opera singer performing in a doorway. You smell the scent of roasted chestnuts and the sweet, heavy aroma of Iznik burger, wet burgers, from the shops near Taksim. But Istiklal is also a place of hidden gems. If you duck into one of the many side passages, the noise of the main street vanishes. You find yourself in a quiet courtyard filled with antique bookstores, or a tiny church tucked between tall apartment buildings. The Hagia passage is one of my favourites, a stone-paved courtyard where you can drink tea under a canopy of vines while people play backgammon at small wooden tables. As we reach Taksim Square, the avenue opens up. This is the symbolic heart of the Republic, a place of celebrations, protests and meetings. The monument of the Republic stands at the centre, depicting Ataturk and the founders of modern Turkey. The energy here is different. It is the energy of a young, ambitious nation. But even here, the past is never far away. The massive Taksim Mosque now dominates one side of the square, its modern design a dialogue with the historic church across the street. We have walked from the oldest stones of the city to its most modern square. Our journey is nearly complete. But there is one last place we must go, a place of reflection. Let's find a quiet corner overlooking the Golden Horn. To end our journey, we travel a bit further up the Golden Horn to the Pierre Loti Hill. Named after a French novelist who used to sit here and write, it is perhaps the most peaceful spot in all of Istanbul. We take a cable car up the steep slope, passing over an ancient cemetery where the headstones are topped with stone turbans and flowers. At the top, we find a small traditional tea house. We take a seat at a table with a checked tablecloth. The city is laid out before us once again, but from this distance, the noise is gone. All you can hear is the wind in the cypress trees and the faint, rhythmic sound of a distant boat. The Golden Horn curves away into the distance, reflecting the last of the purple and indigo light of the evening. We have seen the great domes, felt the textures of the silk and the stone, smelled the spices of the east and the salt of the west. We have crossed continents and centuries. Istanbul is a city that defies simple definition. It is a bridge of cultures, yes, but it is also a place of contradictions. It is ancient and modern, sacred and secular, chaotic and serene. It is a place where every layer of civilization, Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman and modern Turkish, has left its mark, creating a vibrant, living identity that is unlike anywhere else on earth. As we sip our final glass of tea, the city lights begin to form a glowing map of human history. You realize that you don't just visit Istanbul, you experience it. It stays with you, the scent of the roasted chestnuts, the sound of the call to prayer echoing over the water, and the feeling of being at the very center of everything. There is a Turkish word, huzun, which describes a specific kind of collective melancholy and pride that the people of Istanbul feel for their city. It is a sense of the glory of the past, combined with the beauty of the present. Looking out over the Horn, you can feel it. It is a deep, resonant connection to a place that has seen it all and continues to thrive. The tea is finished. The night has fully arrived. The city is still moving, still breathing, still telling its stories. But for us, the walk is over. We leave Istanbul with a full heart and a quiet mind, knowing that the bridge between the worlds will always be here, waiting for us to cross it again. Thank you for joining me on this sensory journey through Istanbul. I hope you felt the wind of the Bosphorus and the warmth of the Grand Bazaar alongside me. This city is a dream that never quite ends, and there is always more to discover. If you enjoyed this walk, please consider subscribing to Daydreaming Travel Stories for more immersive journeys around our beautiful world. And I have a question for you. If you could visit any place in Istanbul tomorrow, where would you go first? Would it be the heights of Galata or the markets of Kadikoy? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep exploring.